The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's Monday.
And it's already starting. I mean, it hasn't stopped all morning.
Another week in the Riv begins. Ah, how exciting.
Well, you know, Friday the Redevelopment Authority met and they talked about the contract they have with Bristol County Economic Development Consultants.
Which wasn't on the agenda.
Which wasn't on the agenda. So you know that there's going to be a couple of open meeting law complaints filed. And those people filing them have already contacted me saying they're filing those open meeting law complaints. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens here.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, all morning since about 5 a.m., that's all they've been talking about on local radio is Ken Fiola being terminated.
Yep.
Now,
and without due process, by
exactly.
the way. Without, but isn't the irony here, and with the irony I see here, that the, you know, everybody, if you watch that meeting, the house was packed with zombies.
Yep.
Half the people on the board are zombies. Some of the people that gave testimony and made comments have, you know, conflicts of interest with people on the board. I think one of the board members is the harbor master. Who's the harbor master appointed by?
The mayor.
Oh, wow, what a surprise. And he was one of the most vocal critics. So it was a kangaroo court. But isn't it ironic these are the same people that are whining about the mayor not, you know, oh, you can't get rid of him? You can't get rid of him. He's innocent until proven guilty. But I guess now we got somebody else to throw in with Kavanaugh. Let's throw him in the tub. Let's throw Fiola in the tub. And look, we have not been fans of Froed.
No.
And everybody knows that. Nobody's making any assertions that we're pro-Froed or pro-Ken Fiola. We call him like we see him, and we've been opponents of many of the things that were done by Froed and also of Ken and his performance. But the problem is he is due. He has a right to due process. You know, you unilaterally fire somebody. You supposedly were going to Skype with him or go on phone or whatever they call it, and he was standing by ready to go on, but you can't face your accusers. You can't give your, you know, they could have moved the meeting to Monday when he was back, but no. This was a kangaroo court. It denied him what they want for their mayor, which again shows that there's no justice in this society. It's all about self-interest. Your guy can get a 4-year term, but if you don't like him, they should have a 1-day term. If your guy's there, he's entitled to due process and to be presumed innocent until proven guilty, but anybody else you don't like is guilty until proven innocent, and even if they are innocent, you don't care, you want them gone. So, you know, again, this is what inhibits the ability to have a productive city and government. You can't have disagreements without becoming disagreeable. And it's always personal in this city. They always make it personal. I still remember when they marched down to a local restaurant and got somebody fired that they disagreed with. They created so much controversy in that restaurant that the person got fired. Was that fair? No, and it had nothing to do with job performance. It had to do with they had a disagreement on a political issue, and they personalized it. So again, look, if this wasn't a kangaroo court, you know, CJ's the Easter Bunny and I'm Santa Claus. So,
well, you're right on time because it's almost Christmas.
That's right. So, I mean, look, like you said, the airways are burning up today. You know, everything's melting, and of course we've got the zombies calling up and saying, "I don't see anything wrong with this." Yeah, you know, you don't see anything wrong with a guy not getting due, but you see something wrong with your mayor, as one of your zombies said. You can't attack my mayor.
Right.
But we can attack everybody else and not give everybody due process.
What's very interesting.
Look, you know, like, dislike, I don't care what you care about, what you think about Ken Fiola. The reality is that he's entitled to face his accusers. He's entitled to give his side of the story. How can anybody take a logical and reasonable vote when you don't hear both sides of the issue? You hear a bunch of distractors getting up there and making accusatory remarks. Kathy Ann Viveris, of all people, talking about lack of audits. With all the lack of audits this city has had, with all with all the denials and the vicious fights that they have when anybody says this city should have a forensic audit, she has the audacity to get up there and talk about missed audits when the city testified under oath at our arbitration that they couldn't do an audit because of lack of records. They did a recapitulation or a recreation. They used both terms during the testimony. And I do have it because that was recorded by a court stenographer under pains of penalty and perjury. So we have the exact responses to those questions. And they admitted this city, even though, by the way, it's statutorily required to have an annual audit of the health care fund, they testified under oath they actually didn't do one for years. They're still not doing what I consider a sufficient audit. We still lose money all the time. So isn't it amazing? You know, we have two sets of rules: the rules for our friends and the rules for our enemies. So that's not the way it's supposed to work. You know, you are supposed to be able to, the mistress of justice is blindfolded. She's got her scales, but that's all crap. We all know that. That's just a euphemism. We see it every day. It's just, just everybody's totally oblivious to the contradiction there. Nobody's apologized for what they did to Kavanaugh. Nobody's apologized for that. Nobody's apologizing for this. They're adamant, nope, this was the right thing to do, but don't do it to my guy. And that's wrong. Because whether you like a guy or dislike a guy, he's got to have his quote-unquote day in court. But Kenny Fiola didn't get it. And as I said, you guys can go back and look at our programs for the last 6 years. We're no fans. We're not fanboys. We're not Fiola fanboys.
The thing is, and Ken Fiola said this to local media outlets. He said, I had agreed, and Carol O'Connell agreed, to have me come in either via phone or FaceTime, which is a cell phone type of thing, which would have been a open meeting law violation because everyone couldn't see him. But a phone thing probably would not have been because you could hear them over the speaker. And he never received a phone call from Carol O'Connell, which just says to me that Carol O'Connell did not want him to have his due time. Didn't want to hear anything he had to say. And, Ken Fiola was waiting for the call. Now, there have been accusations of program mismanagement at the city pier, mismanagement at the old 2nd Street project. The treasurer even said, I felt uncomfortable signing these checks. If you felt uncomfortable signing the checks, report it. What was the problem?
Wait a minute. The who said that?
The treasurer of the RDA.
And doesn't a treasurer have a fiduciary responsibility under the law?
Yes.
Last time I checked, the treasurer of any organization has a fiduciary obligation.
Right.
So if so they're guilty of an impropriety.
Right.
Because if you sign a check that you're not sure of as the treasurer, you're liable.
Right. Now, here's the kicker. It's
you, not the other guy. It's you. As a treasurer, you have the fiduciary responsibility. And I know that because, we went to a seminar a long time ago, the IAFF, and we had each officer go to a seminar that was unique to their position, and our treasurer went there, and after he got through with the seminar, he came out to me and said, God, if I knew the kind of liability I had, I wouldn't have run for the office. He said, I said, yeah, it's all on you. And this is absolute garbage. And they didn't feel any problems about backdating checks from another fiscal year, which is illegal, which I also have as part of that testimony. They admitted that they backdated checks. So, like I said, it's all about, it's not what the issue is, it's who is involved. If your friend's involved, and I find it really ironic too, I'm reading the article here, and it's like the vote was followed by hoots and applause and cheers and jeers and whatever, and they said the meeting was total chaos. But didn't they attack the president of the city council when he allowed a few things that were not in their best interest? But when they got up there, they could be disruptive and ignore the president of the city council and say, I'm not going to stop attacking people because you're attacking my mayor. And then they went on and screaming and yelling and swearing. But, you know, isn't it ironic? They only want decorum when decorum will suit them. When they want to be rowdy, and then they attack the person who attempts to ensure order. And that's what a president's job is. You got a gavel, but sometimes at certain meetings, because I know, I did it for 24 years, sometimes you don't need a gavel, you need a whip and a chair, because it turns into a circus. And you need a whip and a chair to get it under control. Is it right? No. And this is what stops this and cities like Fall River from ever moving forward. This is a three-ring circus. We are a laughingstock, deservedly, of this entire state, of this entire country, and even internationally. This place is a damn circus. Go to a Newtontown meeting. Go to a Wellesley Town meeting and try to behave that way. See how quickly they walk your butt out in handcuffs, and you'll never go to another meeting again. They behave themselves. There's decorum in those meetings. You know, this is like a Roman circus. And nobody has any consideration for the other people's rights. Listen, when you go to court, if you behave that way, then the judge is going to order you in contempt. They're going to take you out, even if you're on trial. They've had people that were bound and gagged. You remember that, CJ?
Yeah. Yeah.
They actually had people gagged at trials. If you get too rowdy, they'll take you to lawyer and throw you in, incarcerate you. Not in the Riv, but it's okay when you do it, but when somebody else does it, and that's what disturbs me. Look, you want to throw mud? Go ahead, but you know, don't not expect mud to get thrown back at you. You want to misbehave, don't expect the people on the other side to misbehave. You know, you want them to take the high ground, but you can take any ground that suits you.
Yeah, and what's interesting, Chip, is the fact that you could tell, if you watch this video of this meeting, you could tell that this was an absolute setup. You could tell. And it wouldn't surprise me if there was some serial deliberation going on. The mayor calling Michelle Dion and saying, I want this to happen, are you on board? Because so-and-so's on board. And then making sure he had all the votes in line before this came forward. Because it just went forward and shot out like there was no tomorrow. And they didn't even put it on the agenda. So this was definitely the fix was in.
Yeah, and you look at the people involved, the players, who they are appointed by. Most of them are appointed by the mayor.
Except for Michelle Dion, who was appointed by the governor.
Then you look at one of the individual who was one of the most vocal people about getting this thing done, the harbor master, and you know, there are allegations that he has a personal relationship with one of the individuals who basically spoke in front of the thing. So is there a conflict of interest there?
I would think so. I
would think so too, if those allegations are correct. So you know, this is like a meeting of the We Love Jazel committee to get rid of one of his people, somebody he's having a long-running battle with. And I think on the radio this morning, one of our regular viewers said that, I guess, that Mark Monroe Dion said, this is another example, and again, you know, he turned a pretty good phrase, this is another example of government by child.
Yes, yeah. And that's, you know, that's sad that that's what people think about Fall River.
Yeah, and I mean, look, people go, oh, you know, it's so unfair for people to characterize Fall River like as they do. Well, what would you think? What, you know, if you came from like a normal place, what would you think when you look at some of these things, when you read the newspaper articles, when you watch meetings like this on Facebook? I mean, you have to be horrified. You absolutely have to be horrified. It's like you look at this, and if you've ever been anywhere else except Fall River, you realize why these people are horrified. I remember going to, you know, with the union, going to court in Boston, and I saw judges in Boston throw lawyers out of the courtroom because they didn't have a motion worded correctly. Just chuck them. Just get out of my courtroom. How dare you come in my courtroom and this thing is not in the proper form. Go see my clerk, make another appointment, and the next time you come in my courtroom, if this motion isn't correct, I'm going to dismiss the case, and you're going to lose. They don't allow this kind of nonsense to go on. You go to a Newton City Council meeting. See if this kind of stuff happens. If there's an outburst at one of these meetings, it's all over the media because it's so rare. Fall River doesn't even make the news anymore. It's like it's so automatic that, hey, look, that's just normal behavior for them.
Circus Maximus.
Yep. And you wonder why people, you know, people look at this city and go, my God. And I hearken back to the retirees conference they had, the state retirees, when somebody from another community started talking about some issues, and somebody said, well, you know, if you want to come down to someday to Fall River, and we can kind of talk about things like that and exchange ideas. And her response was great, and I remember just looking at it, and I kind of had to smile, because her answer to that, and I've said it before, was, why would I ever want to go to Fall River? That speaks volumes. It's like, why would I ever want to go to Fall River? That is, you know, that's what we have. That is the stigma that we have to overcome. And we will never overcome it as long as stuff like this goes on. This is definitely, you know, government, not only by child, but spoiled child. I'll add a word to that one. By this government by spoiled child, who has to get his way. But he's entitled to due process.
But nobody else is.
He's entitled to be innocent, and you cannot remove him. You can remove everybody else. Kenny Fiola, anybody that disagrees with him, but you can't remove him. So talk about having your cake and eating it too. Well, here we go again. Yeah.
Well, I want to read Ken Fiola's statement. It's kind of lengthy, but he states, I am deeply saddened and disheartened by the recent actions of the Fall River Redevelopment Authority, FRRA. Last night, the FRRA intentionally chose to hold a meeting knowing that I was on vacation and unable to attend and answer any of their questions. With the exception of one member, Joe Oliveira, the FRRA board denied my November 13 request to hold a meeting when I was back from vacation. Instead of agreeing to meet when I was back from vacation, the FRRA posted a meeting on November 14th for a Friday night meeting on November 16th. On November 15th, I asked the FRRA chair to patch me into the meeting via phone or FaceTime. This request was agreed to by the chair, and I stood by on November 16th waiting to be plugged into the meeting, but the call to participate never came in, as the FRRA board refused to patch me into the meeting so I could answer questions. Rather than scheduling the meeting at a time in which I was available or allowing me to be patched into the November 16th meeting, the FRRA met and conducted a kangaroo court to sever a very productive 20-year economic development relationship. Review of the meeting tape clearly shows that the majority of FRRA board members acted as judge and jury with a complete disregard of process. The FRRA purposely took this opportunity to make false statements about the audit requirements, City Pier, and Old 2nd Street project. They also made numerous false accusations against the Bristol County Economic Development Consultants, which used to be known as FROED, and myself as the overseer of these projects. Their accusation of gross negligence and misconduct exhibited by me would be laughable if it weren't so damning to the BCEDC and myself. These accusations are without merit, but nevertheless are very serious and long-lasting. Logical and satisfactory answers to their questions and concerns could have been provided by myself as part of the meeting, but the FRRA was not interested in answers. Rather, as appointees of the mayor, the majority of the FRRA members were interested in carrying forth an ugly political agenda initiated by the Carrera administration to undermine the BCEDC and my personal and professional reputation. Upon my return from vacation, I will provide answers to the issues raised and documentation to support those answers. In the meantime, the BCEDC and I will respectively explore our legal options against the Fall River Redevelopment Authority with regards to the breach of contract, as well as slander and defamation of character against those FRRA members who willfully and maliciously chose to tarnish my reputation.
Well,
Another lawsuit.
well, another lawsuit, and well said. And look, as we said, we're not big fans, but I believe that every individual has the right to face their accuser. I have never ever allowed this. I won't allow this kind of stuff. It's just. Well, I remember when I was the president of the union, somebody brought in some accusations, and he had no corroborative evidence, and the individual wasn't there, and he said someone told him about this. I said, well, is the individual who told you about this available to come here to the meeting? Why isn't he here? Well, I don't want to give his name. And I said, well, we're not going to entertain anything. I said, if you want to have anything, we will have a fair hearing on this, but all parties interested will be present. Whether you like or dislike Mr. Fiola, and as I said, I don't agree with everything he's ever done. I might agree with some things that he's done, but the reality is he deserves due process. He deserves his right, and he's right. It was a kangaroo court. It was purely political, and this is the kind of thing that makes people not want to come to Fall River. I mean, this is just, it's a sad commentary on how badly this city has eroded. Look, there's always been politics, but I can say truthfully, in my years, and I go back with a lot of mayors that I dealt with, I've never seen it to this degree. This is just, I mean, and they frankly don't care. You know, the old adage about, absolute power corrupts absolutely is true here. And this is just inexcusable, especially in light of what you just read. He informed them. He requested that so he could bring documentation, and they just don't care. And that's the thing that disturbs me more than anything else. They defame people and slander people all the time. If you've got real proof, all you need is the proof. You don't need to attack people personally. You can prove somebody's stealing, prove it. If you have enough evidence to prove he's incompetent, prove it. But when you walk into somebody's place of employment and get them fired because they disagree with you, like some of these people do, when you get personal on every issue because you have no real proof, that you begin to make things personal, you just not, that's just not the right way to do things. But when they get personal with them, they get a little upset. And I've always been, lawyers can go into court, they can beat each other's brains out, and then if they're friends afterward, after they're all done beating each other up, that's their job. They walk out and they'll have a drink and they'll have a sandwich together. And if they dislike each other, they'll go their separate ways. But it's just business. This is about politics. It's about issues. If you don't have enough proof to prove your position on an issue, and you resort to attacking someone personally, whether it's the way they look or the way their sexual orientation or whatever, you're pathetic. If you can't separate those things.
It's interesting that you should bring up that quote, okay? It's nothing personal, it's just business.
Yeah.
That's from The Godfather, if you remember.
Yeah.
That quote was used during the Redevelopment Authority meeting.
Yeah.
It's nothing personal, it's just business.
Yeah, and that's their excuse.
Right.
But they do get personal.
Right, of course they do.
They try to make it like it's just. Actually, that quote was it was just said not too long ago when Conor McGregor, and I don't know if any of you are UFC fans or fight fans, but as you know, I'm a trainer, and he attacked Habib Nurmagomedov, who's a Dagestani, who's a Muslim. He attacked his faith. He attacked his father. He attacked the entire nation, the politics. He was so far out of line, it was unbelievable. But justice always has a way of prevailing. And when Nurmagomedov was beating his brains out to try to save himself from getting pummeled even more in a clinch, and they had it on video, and it's on video, go to YouTube, he tried to get out of it by saying, look, it's only business. In other words, I didn't mean all those things. Well, guess what? Nurmagomedov came from a society that has honor as an integral part of its foundation. As a matter of fact, they live by Sharia law in some degrees, where they can kill people for dishonoring the family. Not that it's right, but that's their law. But to them, family and honor is a big thing. You don't attack people's families. You don't attack people's countries and their politics when you're going to have a fight. Just get in the ring and fight. You know, you can talk about how you're going to beat him up and how much better you are than him, but no, he chose to lower this down to the gutter, and he did it with someone that was an unforgivable sin. And then they wondered why did he got it, that after the fight was over and after he pummeled him into submission, he actually jumped out of the cage and went after the rest of his corner, who were calling him a dirty rat Muslim during the fight. There are certain things you can't do. There are certain things you shouldn't do. You want to make it personal and you want to have a fight, well, let's fight. If you want to deal with politics and issues, let's deal with the issues. And that's what's lost. And this country has become that way on every political thing. It's all about dividing people and calling each other names and attacking you personally, not about whether you're right or wrong about the issue. And that's just, it's way the hell out of line. And I'll tell you what, I don't see any quick fix to the way we've gotten, because this seems to be the rule rather than the exception now. In the old days, before it was politically incorrect and you'd be called a bully if somebody got a chapada upside the head when they needed it, the reality is when you started talking about somebody's family, you got taken out back and you got your butt whipped. And I still agree with that, because you can get all the psychology in there you want, spare the rod, spoil the child, and I believe that's true. All we got to do is look at the society we got and the bad actors we got. You know, a good spanking would have straightened a lot of these people out. But
maybe that's all Jason needed.
Well, you know, these millennials, they live in daddy's basements and they walk around like they're wearing $600 shoes, but they never had a real job. So, I mean, what are you going to do? But I tell you what, like I said, I've never been a big fan. I know Ken. Personally, I don't dislike him. I don't like a lot of the things that Froed did, all the way back to the carousel. Do I think they're a great agency? No. And like I said, you can look at our shows. We've never been big fans, but he doesn't deserve that. Would you like that done to you? Would you like to be tried and convicted and ostracized without having at least the ability to stand up and defend yourself?
It's Fall River. Why do we give anyone the opportunity to defend themselves? I mean, it's just not right.
That's just, you know, it's Facebook commandos. Remember that?
Exactly.
Remember that picture you sent me of the kid standing in front of sitting in front of the computer screen, telling his mother, "Get me a hot pocket, Mom. I'm
being a badass on Facebook.
I'm a badass on Facebook." Yeah. So it's like, you know, this is what we got today.
We always got some headache, that's for sure.
So there's our music. Stay angry and keep your ears and eyes open. Read the articles. Listen to it. I believe that Mr. Fiola is on the 12 o'clock news on a local radio station.
Yes,
he has a comment. So
Kathy Ann and Ken Fiola will be on at 12 o'clock.
You mean Kathy Pinocchio? Okay. But I'm sure we'll talk about this again on Wednesday, so stay angry, everybody.